Hello. I just finished up with a client right now and wanted to talk about anxiety because anxiety is really affecting a lot of us in this world. And a lot of us don't understand what is anxiety, why is it there? That's a question that I get so much. Why am I living anxiety, right? What is this about? So there might be different reasons for your anxiety, but one of the places that I start with is definitely investigating if anything traumatic would have happened to you early on. And traumatic for a child is different than for an adult. So if your parents took your dog away and your dog died, that's trauma. That's traumatic, right? Like your beautiful dog, your best friend is no longer there and you didn't have a chance to say goodbye. That's traumatic. Turning around in a mall or a public space and you don't see your parents and that lasted maybe a minute or two, but it felt like it was maybe 5 minutes. That's traumatic. That's a traumatic experience. Obviously being abused sexually and physically being, I'm not going to go too much into that, but that is definitely traumatic and painful. What else? Being bullied, intimidated, screamed at. So these are just some examples, again, of traumatic events. But this is what happens when it comes to anxiety. I'll give you an example, actually. I have a client that came to me, and his anxiety was at a place that when he went to buy groceries, he would walk into the grocery store, among other places, where he would become super anxious, right? 55-year-old man doesn't understand what's happening with his anxiety. So his story is this. He got, pretty good beaten by his father. So he has to understand that trapped emotions happen. Terror and fear of being hurt basically settles into the subconscious mind of the little guy. So the little guy understands that to survive in this world, you need to be on best behavior all the time. Although he's not really sure why he got beaten up. It's about always being good and always making sure. So this guy is a high achiever, and nice with everyone. He does it all, but does it all in order to never be punished again. So although as an adult, technically we know that people are just not going to come and punch us out. As an adult, though, the anxiety is there because he is afraid that something might happen. What happens is in the subconscious mind, it says something dangerous might happen to me. And that might look like I'm going to lose my job, I'm going to lose my money, I'm going to lose my credibility or the business that I've created. But it's all anxiety. And then you go to bed and you worry. What's going to happen to me? It's draining, right? Just talking about it. Just anxiety can be really draining and then deplete your energy as a result. So these examples serve as, what happened to you in this is that your need for safety, emotional safety or physical safety, but safety was taken away. And it taught you that the world was dangerous. And when you have this mindset in your subconscious mind that the world is dangerous, guess what? It just happens. Where you lose your job, you lose your money, you lose people you love around you. So it's scary. So what needs to happen with anxiety is if your anxiety is tied to a trauma that you experienced when you were earlier on, and that your need for safety. Remember with Maslow's hierarchy, It's our second need. You know, after eating and being dressed and having a roof over our head, the second, which is almost like the first need, is for us to feel safe in our body. If you do not feel safe in this world, you will walk anxious. So to get back to that example about this man that got hurt from dad, when we did some work together, so we had to re-empower him, and basically recreate a need for safety. So when we did that, third session, he walks in, and he no longer is nervous, anxious walking into the grocery store. And he had to understand this. I said, do you understand what had to happen for you to walk in with your head high? It's that you knew in your mind that you were safe as an adult. That when you would walk into that store, although an adult physically was walking in the store, it was the inner child, the small child that was afraid in walking in the store. So he was actually 7 when he was walking in the store. So this little guy needed to understand that no harm would ever come to him and that he was protected. And when the subconscious mind got deprogrammed, when we reworked and reprogrammed the mindset around safety, then he now lives in a world where the world is safe. Well, people are not out to get him. But in order to heal that is you have to go to the past. It is so false to believe that the past can remain in the past without impacting you today. So my wish for all of us is to first of all recognize that we need to work the past and that there's so much hope. And when we do it quick, it can be done so quick that you could feel alive and joyful and not afraid anymore. I'll give you one last example with anxiety. I had a client come to me actually just recently, and she was tired and wanted me to help her with her energy. Now, first session, I help her understand that her tired is actually linked to anxiety, and she worries. She's a mom of 2. She's constantly worried about her 2 kids. So she's at work and worried about her kids. Like, she's always worried. She's at home worried about them, if they're okay in the bath, whatever. Like, it's draining. I asked her if anything happened to her in her past. And like many of us, many of my clients will say, no, all is good, great childhood. Okay, I said, but as a homework, I want you to go home and think of what might have happened to you, if anything, just tune into this anxiety. She comes back to me and says, I can't believe I forgot to tell you this, because it's just one small event in my whole life. I said, please tell me. So she says, there was a thief. When I was 7 years old, I lived abroad, and there's a thief that broke into my house. So this is a perfect example, right? A thief broke into her house, and the thief, I said, what he ended up doing is not just leaving with your toys. He ended up leaving with your sense of safety, of security in this world. And I need to work with you in order to recreate your safety inside of you, so that you know again that you live in a good world and that it's not so dangerous. So a lot of us, I think, in this world, this is why in some cases money has become such a thing. Money has become created safety within me. It's an illusion, but we have learned that as much money as I can get, then it gives this false impression around money. And money is a good thing. I like money. But all I'm saying is when it comes from a place of creating safety, then we need to look at that. That's also mindset work. But this client, basically, we went back in the past and we recreated this need for safety. She slept in her parents' bed for about 2 months. Can you imagine? 2 months, and was actually never secured. So I had to go back and we created booby traps and we did all these things. But the idea was this, is that little girl that was 7 years old, she actually was 7 years old as well as the man's example, but she was no longer afraid of the thief. And she reclaimed her life, reclaimed her power, and reclaimed her security. Imagine how powerful that is. So that was the second session after the intake. Now the third session, she comes back to see me. Now this is subtle, but listen to this. She says, Sacha, I'll give you an example of how this has changed my life. She says, I was driving home and I noticed that I needed gas. Now, usually when I notice that, I do, oh, no, I have to go pick up my kids first. I have to go pick up my kids. But I said this time, she says, but this time, I like, they'll be fine. I stopped and I grabbed gas, and then I went and I picked them up. And I thought afterwards, oh my God, I would have never done that before. Before I would have been convinced that something bad could have happened, and I couldn't have taken the chance because then it would have fallen all back on me. So this is how we reclaim our freedom, right? Imagine how she wasn't free. Every time there was this, nugget, this thought that it would always pop in, oh my God, your kids, oh my God, your kids. How can you create in this world? How can you become a great leader? How can you, be happy if you always have thoughts around, are my kids going to be okay? So I'm sharing this because there's so much hope for everyone out there that has experienced anxiety or still does experience anxiety. I know I experienced anxiety quite a bit when I was younger, and it was the worst thing ever. And I'm so happy that I figured out what was my cause behind my anxiety. But, for me, I couldn't even go pump gas once upon a time. Can you imagine? Pump gas. That's how bad it was. It had become. So there's so much basically hope around clearing anxiety and living a better life. So I just wanted to share a few words that if you have that little hamster going on before you go to bed, or when you're at work, or before you're doing a presentation, man, you deserve being free and happy and, getting some inspired help, and healing. So all the best, and wishing you a great day.